Welcome to episode 4 of Shan Subs, where I've decided to move my TikTok series over to Substack. I've always wanted to make a podcast because I think like with podcasts, I think to myself I have a lot of things to say. I think that's why I made my TikTok series, because I just wanted to talk about shows and movies, and I wanted to talk about them just in a bigger depth, because I think to myself I also want the concept of shows and movies with me. I want it to be bigger than what it is. Like, I'm enjoying very much doing this podcast and I enjoy doing the series, but I also probably think that I also want it to be a thing where it's something that's more outside, and it's more like a book club kind of format. But I just think it's the type of thing where I kind of want to make it into a thing where it's a thing where you say to people, oh, go and watch Fight Club, and then we come back together as a group and we say to each other what we think Fight Club is about. So it's the same thing people do in book clubs, but it would be practically, if you want to call it, it would be a movie club. Like, not the same kind of thing, because I know my friend also does Sapphic Cinema, but obviously her event's not really like, it's not really a club. It's a Yeah, it's Sapphic Cinema. It's kind of a night event, but I would say like mine would just be more so of a club, and it would be like kind of like a movie/shows club, because I kind of feel like it would be a place for people who enjoy films to come together and discuss shows and movies, pretty much. But in my TikTok series so far, I've done Interview with a Vampire, I've done My Lady Jane, I've done Glee. And my last episode, obviously, which was going to be my obviously this episode, I mean, the TikToks, Alice in Wonderland would have been episode 8, but the one before this one was episode 7, which was Alice in Borderland, which is why it kind of inspired me to do Alice in Wonderland, because I was like to myself, I like the way that, like, obviously Alice in Borderland is just kind of obviously a spin on Alice in Wonderland, because obviously Alice in Borderland is obviously about games, and it's about games versus, like, and it's not really a Wonderland. It's pretty much a it's like, obviously it's on the border, which is why it's Borderland. But obviously with Borderland, like, he's going into games where he battles out to win all the games and to reveal the mystery. And in Alice in Wonderland, Alice goes down a hole. She um she comes to this other world, which is a Wonderland, because it's kind of more of a, what's it called? It's more of a dream world than what Arisu goes through. I mean, when I watched Alice in Borderland, I also thought that, like, okay, no, it's not a dream world. I suppose Alice in Borderland's not a dream world, not in the slightest, but um it's not a dreamy world at all, but it is a world, obviously, that's aside from his proper world. So it's a world that's another reality of his world, but just not the exact one. Um, and I think also, obviously, that's the same element that Alice in Wonderland has, of course, because obviously Alice in Wonderland's just a place that Alice thinks she's made up because of how, like, good it is, but it's obviously also has some kind of elements to it where she has to she has to fight, and she has to fight and put herself out there, but she also has obviously a good time getting to know all the characters there, which is why she obviously thinks that they're made up, which is valid, because obviously you think to yourself, oh, like a character like Mad Hatter, you're like, he can't be a real person, as in he just doesn't feel like he's somebody that you would generally meet. He's obviously somebody that you would make up. So that's why it's like, it's obviously fair that it would be a thing where, like, he obviously just wouldn't be real. I just think to myself that, like, Alice in Wonderland also compares to like Coraline as well, because I think it compares to Coraline because like they obviously like Coraline also goes through a door. She finds a door to another world, a better world as well, as I mean at first anyway. A better world at first, and then obviously Alice also obviously goes down, um Alice goes down a hole, and then in that said hole she gets to eat cake to turn bigger, and Coraline obviously gets to have, what was it, a gravy train, her face as a garden, and like she gets all these wonderful things. And it's like, I think obviously you can see in terms of, if you compare Coraline and Alice, you can see that obviously both characters are missing out on things, or they feel like they're missing out on things. Like Coraline obviously feels like that, yeah, Coraline obviously feels like that she's not being noticed by her mother and dad, as they, in the film, they seem very, very busy and no time for her. And then Alice, she's obviously like, I think she's an orphan. Yeah, Alice is an orphan, and she doesn't have any parents. So it's kind of as to say, where I think I said in the podcast I uploaded, but it didn't actually sound good. I was saying about the fact that obviously both kind of films can come across as though they're like theories, and that they're like what's it called, and that they're made up, because I meant made up by that character, because that's what people have said about the fact that when people used to do this thing where they'd make Disney stories go bad, and they'd say, oh, for example, what's it called? Snow White. Snow White was kidnapped by the seven dwarfs, but she wasn't kidnapped by them because, of course, the film was for children. So that's just obviously not what happened. And I mean, the thing is, of course, because Alice in Wonderland's also for kids, so it's like you're not gonna make it weird. Of course, Alice in Borderland though. Alice in Borderland is not for kids, because I think it's an 18. So it's actually not for children, and it's for adults, which is why of course it has a complete different title, and it just has a play on words. Because I think what I like about Alice in Borderland is that like they just change border, and they also change, if you want to dissect the title, they change Alice, but they only change lice actually. They changed lice, and they keep the A, and then they turn the A like name into Arasu, and then obviously they change border, and they change wonder, and they change that to border. And then obviously that's how they come up with the title in Borderland. And then obviously we just know that Alice in Borderland is to do, the similarities between both things is that obviously they go into two different worlds, innit? Because obviously both characters go into somewhere which doesn't exist, and then in the end they make it home, even though not, I like, spoiler free as always. They, I don't know, I think with Alice in Borderland, I think the show's kind of left it on a thing where Arisu hasn't actually gone home yet, but he probably will. Like I feel like, even though actually I think with Alice in Borderland, I think that's why I was interested to read the manga, because in a way he's kind of never gonna get to go back home, because home doesn't really exist anymore. Like of course when he what's it called? When he obviously got into that other world, it kind of felt like his world, or their world that they knew it as, didn't really exist anymore. So I think it's the kind of thing where, even when I think the last episode maybe of the last season of Alice in Borderland, that like obviously it was kind of a thing where it was just a whole different like alternative, it was an alternative dimension, but that also was not real. Um But like that's what I mean. But not to say too much about Alice in Borderland, because every time even when I did my TikTok series, I always wanted to not say too much about said show or said film, because I wanted to say I'm not gonna sit here and just like explicitly what's the word? Yeah, I'm not gonna explicitly spoil the whole entire thing. I say to people in my series, or I used to say in my TikTok series, I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of talking about this to recommend the said thing. Like, even now, I recommend I recommend Alice in Wonderland right now because I'm talking about it, because obviously the series just talk about shows and movies with me, but it's a way, it's the topic, like the title is a way of talking about shows and movies with me, but I'm also telling you, or not even telling, sorry, it seems a bit forceful, not even telling, I mean, I'm suggesting, you know I'm suggesting that I think that you should go ahead and you should watch the film that I'm talking about. I mean, the thing is, I think that people have obviously maybe already seen Alice in Wonderland, and if they haven't watched said film, they probably already read the book. Because I think that's everyone's first initial introduction to Alice in Wonderland as a whole, because what's it called? I think, yeah, they teach us Alice in Wonderland in school, so I think that's practically like your first introduction to Alice. And I think something I learned while I was when I was at the secondary school thing that I was working at, yeah, they were obviously, I think they were doing Alice in Wonderland, and they were talking about how Alice is actually Alice is actually supposed to be a true story. Supposedly, I think it's supposed to be a true story, but I never really searched that up afterwards. When I heard that teacher say that, I was like, really? Because I was like, so if Alice is actually a real person, then like, is what I'm saying even now? Am I what I'm saying about the fact about theories? Am I saying that, oh, did Alice, like the real life Alice, did she actually did she make the world up? And is that how the story came about in general? Because it's a type of thing where it was a true story and it then was turned into a not true story, because obviously then it was turned into a kind of fantasy film almost, because obviously then it's turned into a fantasy film, and yeah, none of the elements are real. But that's also another thing. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole Alice being a true story thing, I never touched that up. But then now that I've said that in this podcast, you can probably go away and search that for yourself. Even though I think it's something I also want to find out as well. So I'm probably going to search that when I've finished recording. But I think to myself that like yeah, that obviously people should watch Alice in Wonderland. And I just also think another thing is, I also think that's the thing about movies. Like they have, like obviously this film has such good actresses in it. I never knew the actress who plays Alice. I never knew her in much things in general, but of course like Johnny Depp and Anne Hathaway and Helen Bonham Carter and I already say Johnny Depp. Yeah, I did. But like, of course you would say Johnny Depp again. I mean, he's a good actor, so you would kind of repeat it anyway because he's a good actor. So his name would be repeated because he's just that good. And then I think to myself, who else am I missing? As if we're talking about notable actresses. I think the person who also plays the mouse as well might also be an important actress, but I just can't figure her name out right now though. That's the kind of thing. And I also can't remember the White Rabbit's name either. But I think to myself, those are probably two good actors and actresses as well. And why am I thinking there's also somebody else that I'm missing? I do. I think there is somebody else that I'm missing, but I don't know who that is right now. But in conclusion, um as I said, I'm really happy with like the fact that I'm making this podcast. I'm happy about that for one thing, and I'm happy about my TikTok series. And I think I was saying that I don't know if I think to myself that now that I've moved my TikTok series over here, if I'm not gonna also do both. But I could do both if I wanted to, because I thought to myself, wouldn't it be better to have an audio format and also a video one? And if you have both, then it's also a good thing. And it's also like, if you have both, people can also see your face, and then they can also go ahead to say, like, you could add in the video, you'll be like, oh, go and also listen to the podcast also, where you can hear a longer description and you can hear a longer blow by what's the word I'm looking for, a blow by blow by blow. I don't know if that's the right word, but like literally, I just mean like obviously you would just get a more explained version than if there was a video. Because I mean, actually, in my videos, actually, I would usually just, yeah. So in my videos, I'd usually just yap, but I just meant like it's the same kind of thing as doing a podcast. I would yap, but it was in a way that like I would also go on tangents, and I think I do that a lot in general. So I think it's the type of thing where I just go on a lot of tangents as well. But people say that's an ADHD thing, which I'm not too sure about, but that's what they say anyway. Oh, and another thing, actually, we're talking about Alice, sorry. I think what was it? I also searched up the guy who did the music for this film, because I didn't want to get his name wrong. But obviously it's Danny Elfman, and he obviously did Corpse Bride, and he did The Nightmare Before Christmas. But I just wanted to add that in also for context, because he's obviously a really good, what's the word? He's a good composer. I feel like, is that the name that he has? I'm gonna also check actually. Okay, so yes, I checked on Google. He is an American film composer and a singer-songwriter. And he's actually 71. I asked myself, does Danny Elfman even look 71? I don't even know. Maybe not. Maybe he does and he doesn't. But like, wow, like I just mean, so yeah, like I said, he's a composer. Or wow, it says like, so it's 4 things actually. He's an American film composer, he's a singer, he's obviously a songwriter, and he's also a musician. But you know, of course he would be, for all the great kind of movies that he's worked on, which I think is like, well, obviously, where are they? Okay, he's worked on obviously now the recent Beetlejuice. He's worked on obviously the old Beetlejuice. He worked on Charlotte the Chocolate Factory, also Alice in Wonderland, of course, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, and Edward Scissorhands that I didn't mention, but obviously the ones that I did mention were, yeah, Corpse Bride and The Nightmare Before Christmas, and obviously Alice. Corpse Bride is also one of my favorite films, which might or might not be the next episode of this podcast. But so I say might or might not be, but I've obviously just left that for suspense. But it could also be the next episode as well. But it could be also something else. I also think it's because I think to myself that like I was saying about the fact that this is talk about shows and movies, I just obviously want to be able to like watch a show soon, like, and also because I mean I probably am watching a lot of shows right now, but I want to be able to finish a said show that I'm watching and then talk about it in this podcast, because obviously I know that like I love films a lot, but I don't want to just like talk about films all the time. Like I haven't watched a good show in a while, and obviously no, I guess in terms of the series, then the last show was, yeah, it was obviously Alice in Wonderland, but I don't think there was one before that. Oh, except, oh no, and obviously I spoke about Glee, and I think I spoke about Glee because, oh yeah, I was looking in my gallery, which is a folder I have with what was it? I think it's my gallery that is movie and TV shows. So I think what I was doing when I was doing the series was I was kind of just hand picking. I was kind of doing like, you know, a kind of name in the hat kind of thing, and I was kind of just picking them out and going, I'm going to talk about this one today. And I suppose I could do that same thing again, but I think I might be fixated on the fact that I want to talk about Corpse Bride, because obviously Corpse Bride's a great film, and I said the music in it is absolutely great. But thank you for listening to episode 4, and hope to see you again soon.